All right, everybody, what's good? Besides my voice, I don't know if you can notice that it's a little more crystalline than usual. Your boy got real smart this morning and ran way too many miles in the pouring rain, and I'm already feeling as though I've caught something not that great. So I'm going to power through this observation essay presentation as quickly as I'm able. Okay, but before I get to that, couple things. Well, one thing that I learned this week, other than I wear this sweater way too much now that I'm looking at it, is I watched a movie. Let me see if I can move this over on Amazon Prime. There it is. It's called Eighth Grade. I know that's probably jarring to look at, but 13-year-old Kayla endures the tidal wave of contemporary suburban adolescence as she makes her way through the last week of middle school, the end of her thus far disastrous eighth grade year before she begins high school. Sounds pretty boilerplatey, but it's a really interesting film, and especially in terms of, I found that its depiction of technology use to be very authentic, given what I read about you, you younger people, and how you use technology and how it's a filter. You know how we have the sort of disassociated identities between how we are IRL and how we are, online. The movie hits a lot of those. It's got some, emotional moments, and it's definitely, got its R rating is well earned. So buyer beware with that. But if you have a chance to see this movie, Eighth Grade, I strongly recommend it. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm shopping, and you need to know this. I'm shopping for trail gators. Got to keep all the water and crud out of my shoes. So sorry, I closed the wrong Amazon tab there. Okay, so the observation essay. What can I remind you? What tips can I give you? What suggestions can I make? And what warnings can I put in front of you as you not only collect your data, but go down that path towards making sense of it. And then after that phase of that path, turning what you've made sense of it into an argument. All right, so the goals of an observation, just to be repetitive here, and I know, well, I don't want to say many, I'll say several of you have already completed your observations, but hopefully this is what you did. But if you haven't done your observation yet, not a bad idea to be thinking of these things. That you want to be as non-disruptive as possible. I'll have more to say about that here in a minute. The more data you collect, the better. That's always going to be true. So collect lots of data. I said this last week. Even things that don't appear to be very useful could end up being incredibly useful. So write it down, even if in the moment it doesn't seem like you can learn much from it. You can't do anything with it if you don't take it home with you. Okay. The more often you visit, the more data you collect, and the better at collecting the data you get. Because as I said last week, you sort of train yourself to look for things as you go on. Well, I saw this one interesting thing. I wonder if I'll see it again. That sort of thing. So more visits you make, the better. Responsible and reliable note taking. Could I move this corner? Yes, I can move myself up here. It's probably a better place. I have no interest in putting my own face on these screencasts, but I get so many. I get feedback that people actually watch them more. Let's see. What is the goal of your observation site or your community? And as the discussion board posts are rolling in, I'm recording this on the only day I can record this, which is kind of early in the process of completing week 2 assignments. But I've checked in, and most of you are choosing sites as opposed to communities. As long as you're thinking of the purpose of it. Why do people go to this place? And relatedly, of course, why do people join this community? So your argument should be in some way, large or small, tied to the purpose of the community. I'm going to cough. Hold on. Excuse me. Run, they said. It will keep you healthy, they said. So this is a sociological term here, critical incidents. Now, you're going to probably spend time depicting moments more than, trying to capture, an hours long or 2 hours long observation. And so as you hone in on what incidents, and it can be like, as you're watching them, like, oh, holy cow, this is a critical incident. I better write down a lot of data about it. But it also might be something that as you're sort of looking at the observation sort of in the rear view, after doing it, well, that little minor thing turned out to be much more important. Either one you can work with. You can focus on the action itself. I really think that physicality is very, especially in public spaces, is tied to motivation, is tied to I want to say values, that's probably too strong a word, but priorities maybe is a better word. So the actions that you see. Not just actions, but interactions. Interactions, of course, are usually between people. You can see intra-actions as well, the TRA, people sort of, debating or, staring off in the distance or zoning out, or obviously they have something else on their mind. So you can see intra-actions as well, but most of the time it's interactions. How do parents and kids interact? How do people on dates interact, or couples, families, that sort of thing. Or, especially if you're going to like a mall, like friends. Coffee shops, people usually go to coffee shops to, either get work done, or if you're like all my friends in LA or Brooklyn, to look like you're getting work done on your screenplay, or your book of short stories. So look for interactions, look for intra actions. I'm going to put that on there. I think that there you go. Editing and action. Lucky you. The players involved, of course, you want to sort of set the scene as much as you're able. Bullet time is too old a phrase. 20 years ago, there was a really cool movie called The Matrix. It's pretty much a meme now, with the pill, the red pill, blue pill, and a couple other things. But what The Matrix did was invent this idea, or depict this idea of bullet time, which is, bullets are flying at you, but Keanu Reeves is able to slow down and dodge all the bullets because he's, he is the Matrix, I guess. I kind of can't remember the plot of that movie, but slow down and depict as much as you can. And then you also want to go for thick description. And that will make sense as you go back to it's almost like you go home with your notes and then you kind of take notes about the notes. That's how you arrive at a thick description. So one other thing I would do to get you thinking about critical incidents is, like, anytime a police officer has to pull their gun out of their holster, that instantly becomes a critical incident. And the police officer has to have a debrief session with their higher ups. At least this is how it's been explained to me. I'm not a law enforcement official, believe it or not. And what happens is the officer is required to describe what happened in detail, and that's almost never a problem, because as soon as someone pulls their gun, a law enforcement officer pulls the gun out of their holster, the stakes are high. So you should probably have some sort of similar feeling when you see something important happening. It's not going to get, be like the adrenaline rush or the terror of pulling a sidearm out, of course, but it should, hopefully some little bell goes off in your head and to take your time and describe it as much as you can. Okay. Okay, critical incidents, to go back real quick, those are more like based on interactions or interactions. Sometimes you can dig a little deeper with case studies, which is to say you do get to observe a single person over a period of time. This happens a little more easily in smaller, more confined spaces, like typically coffee shops, or maybe a section of a store or library or a restaurant, or a particular server in a restaurant, that sort of thing. If a server is constantly checking their phone, that kind of tells you what kind of server they are, right? Or the overall protocols of the restaurant itself. So what happens is you sort of try to, through, I don't know, I kind of talk about empathy too much, but I do feel like it's an important tool in our arsenal. Focus on the feelings, the feelings that you observe, but also the feelings that maybe come out of you as you spend, a day with a person, sort of imagining what they're going through, what that must be like, what you would do in that situation. As I kind of wrote here in week 3, you can kind of see it over here. I'll slide it over. You can become a part of your argument. Okay. So it's right here. You yourself can be a limited part of your argument. So if what you observe elicits some sort of an emotion out of you, or a strong reaction, awesome. That's something that's actionable intelligence. We can work with that, as long as you're also jotting down sort of your emotional impressions. Okay. I had to attend, I'm very happy to say, a required, let's call it professional development session on this, not a new idea, but apparently people are pretending like it's a new idea, of micro messaging, that people give lots of subtle hints to their thinking. You can tell someone is frustrated or disdainful of another person if they, roll their eyes, in a very pronounced way. But it can even be just like a matter of like somebody like sighing, or their body language can give micro messages to the people that they are sending that message to. They could be subliminal or unconscious. They can also be intentional, or fully conscious activities. So keep an eye out for micromessaging. I've had the thought of teaching that a little more, through the lens of this assignment, and I don't know. It's not a new idea, and I don't know why we're acting like it is. Lots of little messages can add up to big ones. I don't think that's a groundbreaking idea. Let me move me again down here. Non-participant versus participant observation, and that's again to kind of follow through to that your role in all of this. I need to cough again. Okay. Oh, you missed a good cough fit. I feel sorry for you. Let me go big for just a second. I'm coming to this assignment. I am teaching this assignment through a very, and this will make sense in a minute, qualitative perspective. As I say, a very soft science sort of perspective, one that focuses on the things that come to bear in my profession, which is to say, interacting with people, making connections, considering emotional stakes, considering societal mores, values, that sort of thing. That's just my bread and butter. That's where I come from. I'm someone who's taught in the humanities my entire adult life. I'm not going to shy away from who I am and where I come from. That doesn't have to be where you come from. It doesn't have to be who you are. If you are more data-minded, there are plenty of ways to very successfully accomplish this assignment. That's what I want to get into here a little bit. So non-participant observers are dry focus on the facts of the observation and are objective at all times. It's almost like you have your lab coat on and you're taking very dry notes and you're just reporting on the notes in a way that apply to an argument. The way I'm more teaching this is in a subjective or participant observation way, is that you can't act like you're not observing, and people know when they're being watched, right? It's that whole thing of, excuse me, if you're going too fast down Route 21 and you see, Massillon police, or you see a state patrolman, if you're like me, of course I slow down or check my speed, but also like turn the radio down because I know I'm being watched. Like I listen to my radio loud when I'm by myself, and so I turn my radio down. I just try to be like a better citizen immediately, just because I know I'm being observed by someone who's, sort of in charge of making sure that everybody's being good citizens, right, or at least compliant. So I come from that perspective of we're disrupting the observation site. We should do our best to limit that disruption, but we can't change the nature of it. Okay, and so what happens in this attitude is you filter everything through your life, through your emotions, your opinions. Again, there's that word again of values, through your priorities. So I think you don't have to like clearly state I am a participant observer or I am a non-participant observer, because in the same hippy dippy way I'm talking about not divorcing our work from ourselves, I really believe that a mishmash of these perspectives can ultimately be productive. Okay, when you get your data, what happens? You look for patterns. What words pop up the most? Okay, another phrase for this is a constant comparative method, where you look for things to emerge. It's also called emergent design. All right, what can you prove? What are your patterns telling you? And then what are the outliers teaching you? I think that's an interesting one to think about. What's the one thing that stuck out that didn't jibe with the rest of your observation? We can learn something. Rules need exceptions, right? So pattern recognition is going to be important. And from what I'm learning from all of you from your invention journals is that a lot of you play a lot of video games. And if there's anything that video games make you good at, it's pattern recognition. All right, so quantitative versus qualitative. If you're someone who wants to do straight up data collection and like tallies of this many people had their phones out, this many people ignored their significant other, that's fine, do it. If you want to base your whole arguments on hard data, you just better be really good at making those tallies. Okay, qualitative is what I've much more been teaching, is that your impressions sit alongside that data. They work together, they work in tandem. Okay, it's a motorcycle and a sidecar. You decide who's in the motorcycle, you decide who's in the sidecar. Up to you. You can mix and match to your heart's content. All right, and then arguments, they can be big or they can be small. They can be both. You can make grand societal stuff. You can make personalized arguments, right? So focus on large-scale conclusions. Focus on personalized conclusions. Usually they're like related to like, well, I didn't expect this to happen, but here it is. Or I thought that was going to happen, and turns out I was right. So it can be sort of a testing hypothesis kind of structure. I'm going to do a lot more one-on-one work with your arguments once I start looking at rough drafts, once I start, peeking in on peer review. So as always, guys, send me your questions and maybe your prayers. Thanks.